बैग में तो रखा था, अरे भी क्या कर रहा है अभी वो दुकान अंकल का फोन दिया था ना मैंने, बस ना दुकान पे काम करते हुए
उल्टा सीख कर दिया मैंने।
बाप मीटिंग में फोन लगा तो बाप को बोलते हैं
तो तेरा बाप डर भी रहता है।
मीटिंग में था उसके बाद
मीटिंग
संडे को फोन किया था ना, संडे को तो मैं मैच खेलने गया था।
ये तेरे पापा का
हां हां वो भी सेकंड नंबर पे, पापा के भी सेकंड नंबर पे कॉल लगा रहे हैं। अबे अरे
मैंने शाश्वत को भी ये नंबर भेज दिया तो मैंने दर्द से बात करी तो
कभी फोन लगा अबे सुन ना कदम, अरे पापा के ऑफिस में काम करते ना, उनको हमने हमारा फोन दिया था। कल उन्होंने नया फोन खरीद लिया तो मैंने वो वाला फोन ले लिया। इससे पता
या तो भी पिछलो पे नेटवर्क कवरेज के बाहर
ये वो
आम आदमी पार्टी अरे तुम आगे
आम आदमी एक दो और
इसका क्या करना है करना क्या है मैं पता ही नहीं मैडम को आने को दो मुझे लगा वो पता होगा
एक कदम बदला
नहीं क्या तू सही मेरे को लगे
ने कंफर्म तो आई है अबे तो आपको से हमारे बोला सामने सब
उधर बैठे हम सुन
अबे उधर भी बैठे हो भाई अबे बता दिए
क्या
अभी मेरे को झट्टो वाला पैसे वेस्ट कर दिए
Wednesday, someone wants to kisses you.
मैंने वेदांत को कॉल किया
एक हार्डर भी है ना कल प्रोग्राम कल वो टॉपर्स वाला और मेरे को वो व्हाट्सएप भी है बेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस
ये कल किसका होगा
क्लाइमैक्स से
मुझे लगा था
कदम
अबे
हां जा
बेटा ये
जॉली ने करने क्या मारी कल मत सही मत
अबे अबे नहीं तेरे को बोलते कि मेरी मम्मी ने कल वीडियो पे प्रैंक कॉल में निकाल
हां मेरे को भी आया था बात
हां तेरे में भी प्रैंक कॉल करने वाली थी क्या प्रैंक बोलती है पीछे मैं खेल रहा हूं
अरे पढ़ने से पहले कोई कौन सी लड़की बात कर रही थी फोन पे
तेरी मम्मी
हां अरे पढ़ी मेरी
लुक ये हिसाब वाला पैसा है
मेरा हिसाब
अरे देने का पैसा है
अबे मेरे
बाकी कल भी मेरा नाम है तो मुझे पीछे से आ रहा है तू को सब कितने बार लगाओ
अरे अपना मिला तो बोले कि 1000 2000 का खाना तो बहुत
भाई
मिला
मैं लाभ भेजना पड़ रहा है
सारे बोल रहे कल हम लोग को वीडियो
कल रात में आलू के पैसे ही अंदर होगा 20 रुपए
जीवन में बस कर अरे मेरे को पता है रोहन रील्स करके दूंगा वो भी ये नहीं रहता मैं क्रिकेट हां
कौन लीड बैठ गया
रोहन
ये वो मेरा सॉरी वो हीना वाला
हां
इधर 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 कौन कौन इधर आज 7-11 ना 7 बजे हां बर्थडे बर्थडे वही है मैं बोला क्लास में लेने के इसको अरे वो कंप्यूटर लैंग्वेज
वैसे भी बता दिया अरे मैंने
आपको पता है नहीं पढ़ाई का क्लास है कितना को बोला किसी को बोला स्कूल में तू चिल्ला के गए मंडे को
वो अच्छा न्यू टेक्स्ट बुक
You got that one, no?
First,
what is the next year
Yesterday you did not come, no?
Yeah,
We
I
have
it's not her, but guess who had other classes to go to?
Huh?
You are texting over it and hold.
next week Aisha can you give me
they have not signed yet. He recently, what do you say about
not you they saying
ma'am he's touching me I beat him then he cried so much of fighting
you came here,
I don't fight
he feel bored. Why so harassed?
yes yes right
Yes.
Listen, see this structure is the compulsory method.
which lesson ma'am
fringe culture and
It
modern.
is in history.
History.
Only two chapters coming in exam.
This is coming in the board exam.
No, so half yearly only two chapters coming.
Half year, we are not
Yes,
thinking about only half yearly questions. We have to cover the questions, and this lesson is important lesson. So pay more attention.
That is Industrial Revolution. When we studied, we have seen that is coming only for internal. Isn't it in your schools that internal exams that Industrial Revolution was asked? No? Which school?
no, you don't give up.
Who has signed with the green? No, you are not supposed to use green. Green and red. Even we are not using green.
And give that answer.
No, no need. So I am telling you, you are not supposed to use red and green. Green is only allowed for the principal. And sometimes when we are doing that paper correction, HEs, head examiners are allowed. Others are not allowed. So there is a rule for all. Okay, listen. And one more thing, your board. Why you are keeping stamps with you? Keep it. Keep it aside.
What are you telling somebody?
No, not me. What was taking someone's house? No, I feel they too can make unboxing of house.
Resource or something. This is, ma'am, you know what this is? See, we need to open like this and do like this. Baby corn.
This materials you can correct afterwards. It's not our
Okay. Enough. Listen. And board exam, you are not allowed to use black.
Yeah, ma'am, I know.
Yes, ma'am.
Just you pen, ball pen.
Make gel be allowed of that. Out of that.
See, just when you are writing, the inks that reflection will be on the other page. Some of the gel pens are like that. That is why gel also avoid. Only ballpoint pen. Blue black. Means a dark blue color.
Ma'am, but now we can use gel pen.
Now. Okay. Yes, listen.
But I will use ball pen.
Atithi. Janice. Never comes.
I guess I
Okay. The evolution of print is very interesting topic to study. So now, few minutes back I was asking you that is why you are using stamp.
Yes.
So that stamp is a kind of print impression. So this did not take place all of a sudden. Pick up it. Very good English. Same.
Ma'am, very short.
No.
You
वही तो कर रहा हूँ अभी।
किसका बैग है वो? ये हमारा बैग। No.
enough. Same. Nowadays, we are having all the facility. Books are there, printed materials are with us, and how many copies we want, that many copies we can take it. So this present situation, it is very difficult to imagine a world without print. That time, how all these things happen. So to a certain extent, to a certain period, there was no literacy or education. So that time, okay, it was not that much required. But when education and all started, there was a great need for printed materials. That is why we have to study about how all these things evolved, where it started, and what are its impacts. Same, present day we can find printed material in all the walks of life. Can you give some examples where we can see? Textbook, okay. Journals, cloth, textiles, print is there. So printed cards are there. So all the areas we can see printed materials. Now, printed literature is very useful in the present day life to get knowledge or to get information. Now, this one is very helpful in the present day. So, can you imagine a day without any type of script or any type of printed work? Yes.
On Sunday, whole day sleeping, no print.
See, so I'm not asking about that. When there was no printed work, script is not there. We are not having any alphabet and all. So he will be very happy. No need to learn.
No study.
No study. Okay. So people used to communicate with the actions and sounds. So together they use actions and sounds. We call it phonetics. Isn't it? Have you heard about that phonetics?
No.
Phonetics is the sound. So people used to communicate with that way. That is actions and sounds. After some time, people began to use pictures. So pictographic. Okay. So pictographic, some pictures were used, and now you have to understand that in that pictures, when I am drawing over it, I'm very poor in drawing the pictures. That first of all I'm telling. So pictures, when I am drawing, in order to convey, don't do. Yes.
Don't cry.
Okay.
So,
listen, you have to understand what picture or what is the meaning, what I want to communicate with you. So both the readers as well as that person who want to communicate it, both the persons have to understand it. So because of that, it was a very difficult task. But once these pictographic scripts are being introduced, there felt the need of more copies. That was the beginning of the evolution of print. Because once it came, that is, once the alphabets are made, then people want more copies of such alphabets as well as the words with the alphabets. So that with that, the beginning of the print started. Now let us see Where was the first printing
China.
start? Thamba.
Like wait.
China was the first country which start the printing materials.
Was the first.
China, China was the first country. It was followed by Korea and third one is Japan. This is what that stage of Far Eastern countries. These countries are called Far Eastern countries. So China was the first country which started printing materials. That is, alphabets might be started in other countries, but printing as an institution, it started in China. How it all started? So, this was a system of hand printing. You just write down the points. China was the first country which started printing.
Followed by Korea and Japan.
Then it was hand printing.
China was the first country.
China was the first country started printing technology. Followed by Korea and Japan.
Britain. W-I-T-T-E. It was hand printing.
The system of writing was hand printing.
Korea and what do you have to write?
System was hand printing, and from 594 AD onwards, 594 AD onwards, books were printed. Books were printed in China.
Then I China.
You should not make this kind of.
Ma'am, please throw that.
Say, from 594 AD onwards, books were printed with wood block printing technology.
Wood block.
Wood block.
Wood block like this.
Then how it works? Stamp.
Can we show the? Can we show?
You just write first. Wood block printing technology.
It's written now. Wait. Wood block. Can you repeat from the starting?
Wait, I will repeat for you. Please. China was the first country,
No.
followed by Korea and Japan.
From 594
hand printing and 594 AD onwards, books were printed in China with wood block printing technology.
Okay. Wood block print. Listen. What was that? Say, on wood blocks, this alphabets used to be there. Okay. On these alphabets, inks were.
Mom, please throwing ball.
Yes, ma'am. Please change the seats.
Mom is throwing paper.
You just. No, I have told you not to write with the greening.
Chapter number.
No, he did.
Chapter number.
That is paper.
What is that?
Second page. Because I want to check that is the order. Otherwise, I will go and check. See, listen carefully. That is, on wood blocks, the alphabets used to be there, and that wood blocks, that ink will be poured, and the paper will be rubbed against the inked surface. That was wood block printing. See that on wood blocks, alphabets are there, the words are there, and this inked surface, the papers used to be rubbed. So that technology is called a wood block technology. I was just drawing that picture. I have already told you. You don't expect me to draw a fine picture. You don't have to.
Yes, I've never seen that wood block, so I want to see like how it works.
You can. Finally.
Please.
Your textbook, that picture is there.
Ma'am, we don't have text.
See,
No, ma'am, it is not there, ma'am.
Can you open the PDF?
अच्छा, that is less. ये wood block थोड़ी है यार. ये तो रोमियो है.
अरे
ओ पैसा
मेरा क्या बोलेगा
पैसा मिला
तेरा पैसा डाल दिया हम do you have to write that
this is what the wood block technology. Rubbing the paper against the inked surface of the wood block.
मैंने नहीं तोड़ा पैसे.
पैसा बचा ही है
पैसा तोड़ दिया भाई
You just write now. On wood block, these alphabets are placed. If a word is to be needed, that word will be placed on the wood block and inked. That is just like a stamp.
I was just saying that.
Yes. And the paper will be rubbed against it. So on that side, plus also rub also. Whatever it is that, the words will come or the print will come on the surface. But both the surfaces it cannot be touched. The paper was coarse paper. Okay. So only one side it will come. Huh? That is the technique they only know. Other people, they learned very late. China only started that. How can it? You will see finally. Okay. As both the sides of the thin porous sheet could not be printed. Porous sheet could not be printed as both the sides of the thin porous. You go on talking, so everything will come.
I am reading here.
No.
Yes.
As both the sides of the thin porous sheet could not be
In porous.
porous sheet could not be printed. The traditional Chinese
Traditional
Chinese accordion book.
According book.
Accordion
accordion book
was folded. Chinese accordion book was folded
Yes.
and stitched at the side. Have you completed that sentence? Yes. So first we have to understand what is accordion book. Second is that how it was made. See, only one side of the paper print is there. So in order to make it look like a book, it used to be folded and stitched at one side so that it will look like a book. So the paper was thin and porous, so only one side could be printed. So this book used to be made by folding the paper and stitching at the one side.
one side blank.
One side blank only, but when it is printed,
One
folded,
side black, one side ruled.
folded.
Yes, it is
Okay.
like journal.
Then another thing, what is accordion book? Accordion book is like a calendar.
Oh, spiral.
So calendar, because they need to keep that events, dates and all. So they prepared a book called accordion book. Now this one is clear. What is accordion book? You understood? What is what they used to do to make it into a book form? They used to fold and stitch at one side. Okay. Now, next point, superbly skilled.
Ma'am, next point, your continuation. अरे का यूटी टॉपर्स का इनविटेशन मिला है मेरे को पर्सनली मिला है मैम कंटिन्यूएशन
कौन से कलर का?
कौन से ब्लू
Superbly skilled craftsman
अरे बीबी का नाम से
duplicate with remarkable accuracy the beauty accuracy the beauty of calligraphy calligraphy have you written now
Ma'am, I'm writing my full written. Everything you told me.
see if the copies have to be taken at that time there are certain people who are appointed to copy it up. I will take that bench.
बुकुन actually
You are also taking committee, otherwise I will call that madam. You come now.
कर रहा है
तुम लोग बहुत परेशान करते हो
अभी नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में इधर ही बात है आगे पता है क्यों जा रहा है ऐसे डायगोनल रिएक्ट वो मिलेगा
गलत बेटा है no you also like
he is very kind
Yes, yes.
taking phone cheap to
Yes. See, there were some people who are appointed to copy down. That people are called like calligraphers. They just copy down that words, ditto like. Because that time there was no printing machine and all. They were doing it with that wood block printing. So if copies are required, some people were appointed only for that work. So those who are doing that kind of work, they were called as calligraphers. And the work of copying that is called calligraphy. Means that is a special type of art. The writing. Okay. So that beauty of writing. The printed materials were the printed materials were made under the supervision of
I totally messed up the sentence.
the printed material were made under the supervision of
Yes.
the government. That in bracket you have to write Imperial China. That is emperors. Emperors. China had
Next one.
China had huge bureaucratic Imperial China. Emperors were there. That time kingship Manchu dynasty was there. Manchu.
How many years?
What is bureaucratic? Ma'am, what is bureaucratic?
I'll tell you. First you complete. China possessed a huge bureaucratic system you just get out a laugh, complete and come.
Actually, this the reason
No.
behind
I don't want to hear what is the reason behind it. When subject is teaching, there is no need to laugh.
not letting you because you both
Bureaucratic system which recruited its personnel through civil service examinations. They made you to sit here, then you went by yourself. No, don't give a reference. With the civil service examinations. Civil service examination. No, ma'am, she's eligible. Textbooks for this examination. Textbooks for this examination.
Next one.
Had to be printed in large numbers.
Examination had to be
Printed in large numbers.
No, examination no.
Printed in large numbers, no? We printed in large. This one paragraph हो गया.
Under the sponsorship of under the sponsorship of the imperial state. That means emperor, that ruling dynasty. Imperial state. When the number of candidates, no, you continue. When the number of candidates increased, The demand for printed works also increased. Okay, listen very carefully. At that time, the appointments to the officers were done through civil service examinations. Have you heard about the UPSC?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a public service commission and that conducts the examinations. And civil service is, have you heard about IAS, IPS, IFS, like that? These services, recruitment was made on the basis of examinations. So they have to prepare for this examination, so books were required. Or the demand for such books increased when the number of candidates increased. So that is why more printed books were in demand. That was one type of need for printed material. Now the second part, next part. By 17th century, by 17th century, urban culture bloomed in China.
And what is meaning of bloom?
I will explain. First you write it.
The uses of print.
As a result, the printed material diversified as per the needs of the urban population. Okay. Merchants need information. Next point. Merchants need information. Information. Need information. The officials and their families
Need information, the official.
Information, comma,
The official.
the officials and their families
After that,
families were interested in reading different types of books like fictional narratives, poetry, autobiographies, anthologies. Anthologies, then Romantic place, etc.
Romantic place.
Play.
Place, no?
PLAYS.
It's a place.
Drama, etc. This was followed by. This was followed by. Next point or this one? Next point. Then only this was followed by a new reading culture. By a new reading culture. Rich women. Next point. If it is not connected, means next point. Rich women spend their leisure time.
Leisure time means leisure time.
Leisure time in reading as well as writing. Reading as well as writing about their experiences. Okay, so first we have seen when there was a demand for staff, there was more books printed. What is that? Examination purpose, printed books were made in large numbers. So, in course of time, large number of people began to stay in cities. A new urban culture developed. When this urban culture, that lifestyles also changed. The people began to get a lot of leisure time. This leisure time they spent by reading. And if they were interested in writing about their own experiences, they used to write. So as a result of that, new varieties of books come in the market. So one side we have seen, under the patronage of the government, the books used to be printed. Now individually the books began to be printed, and there was great demand for different types of books. So print developed in a large scale. That means varieties of printed books came. We have started with accordion book. That was the calendar of events. That was compulsory. Afterwards, we have seen the government patronize the books for examination purpose. Then we have seen new varieties of printed materials came in the market. But at the same time, as the demand increased, it was not sufficient by making the calligraphers to do it, or manuscripts was not sufficient. So there arises the need of a new style and new technology. In course of time, that is, we talk up to 17th century. So by the time before itself, from Europe, mechanical printing presses came into Europe, came into China and other parts of the world. But actually, to Europe, this woodblock technology only went first. But they have developed a new technology, mechanical presses. So that spread all over the world, and it helped in making more copies as per the requirement of the people. Did you get to all those stages? Now let us go to Japan. So China, this way development had taken place. In Japan also, the idea have come from China, but actually it was introduced to Japan by the Buddhist missionaries only. Buddhist missionaries wanted to spread that Buddhist teachings. Have you heard about the Fahian, Huensang and all? No. In history, they were the travelers. Okay. China,
What is Buddhist missionary?
Buddhism, have you heard about it? The birthplace of Buddha is in India only. So they wanted to know about this original works. The other day when I was teaching this ICSE students, I have seen this one, Fahian, how he came to India. He was interested to collect that the manuscripts of that time. He had to face lot of challenges to reach India. And how he got that materials. So whatever that materials the Chinese got, Chinese wanted to spread it to Japan. So actually the Buddhist missionaries only introduced this printing technology in Japan. Next hour also you will be sitting here.
No.
Why? Fed up with that?
Yes.
You can put your news back.
वो उधर नेहरू वाले कपड़े में जाते लेकिन साइड बड़ा